Okay, so this is part of a multi-part video because I noticed watching YouTube as well as producing films for YouTube, we see many people starting to videotape themselves going in and exploring abandoned mines. And I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular. You know who they are, you know who you are. I just want to throw out there some precautions, and one of these tools, besides keeping your head screwed on straight, having some common sense, watch where you step, have appropriate footwear, don't wear shorts, don't wear open-toed shoes, watch out for wildlife. I found rattlesnakes 100 yards inside of a mine. One of the things we're going to discuss today is air monitoring. And this is probably one of the most important tools besides your brain that you can have while exploring an abandoned mine. Background: I've got over 30 years of confined space rescue, and that includes rescuing people out of abandoned mines, and the majority of those has not been a happy ending. So we're going to start with a unit that I use, not the only one I use, but one of them. This is a Ventus MX4. We're not going to go very deep into it because most of you out there in YouTube land are not going to afford this thing. This is about a $3,000 price tag, and the sensors are anywhere from $400 to $700 to replace. There's 4 sensors in these. There is LEL, lower explosive limit. There is CO, carbon monoxide. There is H2S, hydrogen sulfide, and oxygen level in percent. Like I said, I'm not going to turn that one on, but what I will do is show you probably what most of you have either got or you're now seriously considering buying. So this is a Toptis. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. This is a Chinese-made air monitor, and as we boot it up, you should be able to see things that are going on in there: alarm settings, H2S settings, for CO settings. It'll do an LED check, shock check, audio check, and then it will show you your settings. Now, some of the things that you want to think about in these 4 gases is in a well-ventilated area based on your sea level. Now, I'm at 4,000 feet. I'm having about 20.9% of oxygen by volume. Now, I've heard a lot of people complain that the oxygen doesn't read right when they first get them out of the box. That number can be calibrated. You just need to know what your oxygen is for your altitude. So the higher you go, the less volume of oxygen you're going to have in the air. Mine is set for 20.9. That's where we calibrate to for 4,000 feet. It'll be a little lower at 10,000 feet, but that's okay. We know that we calibrated it when we left the house. Everything should be good. To our left on the top line, the LEL is lower explosive limit. That is methane. Methane is a very explosive gas found in mines, mostly coal mines, but it can be found in abandoned mines anywhere around the country. So you should be very cognizant of that. We'll talk about gas weights here in a minute. H2S is hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide will kill you if you get into a hydrogen sulfide at more than 40 parts per million. You will die, and you'll be dead before you hit the ground. Hydrogen sulfide is produced from rotting timbers. Mostly you'll find those in abandoned mines. Amazing that, huh? We see timbers. Now, the mine doesn't have to be flooded. The timbers just have to be wet and slowly decomposing. That can be higher humidity in a dry mine, could be a small water leak leaking on a timber that you may not even see, coming from a rock. So very important, H2S, something you should remember. Finally, we're going to look at CO. This is carbon monoxide. Anytime you've had a fire, the byproduct of burning wood, burning rubbish, is not only CO2, but CO, carbon monoxide. This stuff will kill you too. It's toxic, but not quite as fast. So our big ones here is H2S, carbon monoxide, and our oxygen stays at the volume that we can breathe easily. Quick story about hydrogen sulfide. Probably before most of you were born, a high school teacher in Virginia City, Nevada, and a cohort decided to explore an abandoned mine. They got in about 20 feet, got short of breath, turned around, made it about 3 feet, and were dead before they hit the floor. Hydrogen sulfide lays on the floor, so as you're walking in, you stir it up. You stir it up, it mixes with the oxygen. Your volume of oxygen drops, but H2S is highly toxic. So when you breathe it in, it's almost immediate. It's an immediate poison. It'll kill you very fast, faster than carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide will make you dizzy, give you headaches, start to give you tunnel vision. H2S will kill you. It'll kill you right now. So you don't gamble with it. So we're going to go through the steps on turning these on, just like I did here in the beginning, and then we're going to turn it on again, and we're going to put it through a bump test. So before you go on a trip where you think you're going into a confined space, and an abandoned mine is a confined space, any building with one entrance and no windows that could potentially pose a hazardous environment, underground bunkers, stuff like that, can all contain mixes of carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, depletion of oxygen, increase in nitrogen, and depending on the confined space, the lower explosive limit, which in this case would be methane, could be at a percentage enough to cause an explosion if met with a spark. Methane by itself is not toxic, but when mixed with oxygen it becomes highly explosive, and I can tell you from experience that your lungs will start to burn, although it does not have any health effects in small doses. So if you're dealing with methane, that's probably the least of your worries, but still not anything you want to stir into the oxygen supply. Methane is lighter than air, and we'll get into weights again here in a few minutes. So we're going to do a bump test. So this is a Gasco canister. They can be had for anywhere from $50 and up. Search the internet. This isn't going to be necessarily an eBay item. If you know somebody in the confined space business, they're going to have bump gas, and they're going to have calibration gas. On the Toptis models, they are factory calibrated. They'll tell you right in the manual, read the manual, that the calibration setup is done with a pin code. They do not supply you with the pin code, and I've been able to find it on the internet. So you're just going to have to deal with bumping it. The Toptis models say they come with a 3-year warranty. So the sensors are probably only going to last you 3 years, if not a little less. If a sensor quits within the 3 years and it's due to normal use, they will replace the whole unit. So you register them when you get them. If they quit before 3 years, they'll replace it. If they quit after 3 years, that's about the life of any one of those 4 sensors anyway. You'll usually lose oxygen first. That sensor will quit reading. Moisture has a lot to do with it. Do not get these wet. Any one of these 4 sensors here that gets wet, they'll quit functioning, and this will throw an error. So you don't want to mess with that. So anyway, now we're going to talk about bump testing real quick. And so I am going to snap that little appliance on there, and we'll get started. In a bump test, you're going to use a well-ventilated area. This bump gas is going to smell like somebody passed gas, and that is the methane. The hydrogen sulfide in these bottles are at the death limit. They are at 40 parts per million. That's where they will alarm. Carbon monoxide is at 200 parts per million. Methane is 2.5% by volume, so that puts you at a 50% lower explosive limit on the test, and your oxygen will be displaced to 10%. So this is not for a vacuum tube. On the Venice systems, they have a fan built into them. The fan allows it to draw air through this orifice. You want to put the orifice below your knee, and we'll show you that in the next segment. And there's a good reason for that. So we're going to come back to that. Right now is the bump test. So we are going to hold our unit. We have our testing cap on, and we are going to line that straw up, poke it in there about a quarter of the way, and we're going to give it a couple of squirts. And now it smells like somebody passed gas, which is something you guys in YouTube land won't get to enjoy. But you can see now that all of our sensors are going off. Our oxygen is dropped to less than 13%, slowly climbing. Our lower explosive limit was right up there where the bump gas said it should be. H2S is at a deadly 7 parts per million. Anything above 5 will kill you. CO is at 85 parts per million. This thing will beep the entire time. You won't see all of these go off at the same time. This is just a bump test. But in a mine, any one of those triggers will set off an alarm. To get those alarms to shut off, I'm going to add a little air. And now everything will drop back down below their alarm limit, and the light on the display will go off. And if it's not quite in focus, my apologies, but I'm dealing with a limited space to produce this. So now you have that. Now, some people have asked in the confined space industry, should the placement of a carbon monoxide detector be influenced by the CO's weight relative to air? Well, CO is lighter than air, but not by much. Your CO gas will mix with oxygen, and so it doesn't matter if you're in a house with a stove that is producing carbon monoxide and you're laying on the floor or laying on the top bunk of the bed. It's all going to get you, because studies by the National Laboratory and Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information, has run that test. And they put carbon monoxide detectors at the ceiling, the center of the wall, and the floor. With an 8-foot ceiling, they introduced 15 liters or 3,000 parts per million was infused at each of the 3 heights in different trials, and CO levels measured over time. The result of that test was that no matter where they injected the carbon monoxide, over time the CO would mix with all of the volume of air in the room. So that will make sense as we get to the next part of this video. Now we're going to talk about positioning. A air monitor should set right below your kneecap, right where your calf starts to expand. So the best way I've found to mount these things is you take a piece of Velcro and you wrap it around your leg. So let's pretend that that's right below your kneecap, right above your calf, and it's tight. Okay. Next, you're going to hook your air monitor, which in this case has a locking clip on it, You're going to lock that through there, and it's going to hang from your knee like so. This puts you at the best level to know that carbon monoxide and H2S, hydrogen sulfide, if you start stirring it up, this monitor is going to catch it before your lungs do. Now, why do we keep it down there? Just for what I said. Make sure that we get that reading before your lungs do. Now, to keep from getting trapped in an H2S environment, you want to stop at the entrance of the mine or the entrance of the confined space, probably 10 feet inside, and take an air monitor reading. Now, you can snap this off and look at it. It's pretty easy to do. Just unclip it, comes right off the Velcro or a belt, anything. But you want to look at your levels, and you want to look at your levels at that level, just below your knee. If you're good like that, you walk another 20 feet and you just glance at it and check it. Okay? From there on, it's a good idea to walk about 100 feet. Check it again. If you've got other people behind you, looky-loos, fellow mine explorers, they're going to fall down before you do if you run into H2S. But you're almost guaranteed survival if you keep this low to the ground. And by low to the ground, I mean below the knee. Now, when you go in abandoned mines, this is another thing that I'll keep drilling at people, and many things I've seen in the videos. Wear long pants. Do not wear open-toed shoes. Shorts, flip-flops, it's the worst thing you can do in there. You can stub your toe, fall down a pitfall. There's winzes in these mines. There's shafts. You need to be alert of your surroundings and have your toes not afraid to bump into anything. So I'm just going to throw that out there for the good of the order. The other thing that you can do, well, okay, I heard this. Well, I don't want it connected below my knee because it might fall off and I won't notice it. Well, that's okay. Because what you do is you pick up one of these little hook straps. And a lot of times these will come on a camera bag or something like that. You just clip that on there. There's about 3 feet of line on it, and you bring it up and you clip it to a belt loop. That way, if your Velcro gives up, you're not going to lose it. As I said before, do not immerse these in water. They get wet, they're done, and they can't be warranted once they're wet. So we have gone over the type of unit. The unit I would recommend is this one. You do not want to get invested in these unless you've got a lot of money to throw around. Hopefully YouTube's paying you really well. They don't pay me nothing. So, and I don't do advertising to gain money. So, $100. I'll put the link in the description. Pick you up some Velcro, find yourself a camera strap with a hook on each end, and you're good to go. Your bump gas, look around, you can find different prices on it. Be wary of the expiration dates. There are expiration dates. After the expiration dates, I've seen people use them just for bumping and not calibrating. I will usually use a can of bump gas until it is empty. You get about 30 puffs out of the can that I showed you earlier. So that's 30 tests. And then you got to go hunting a new can. Normally where I go, I'm out before I ever get to the expiration date on the can. If there is no expiration date on the can, figure on a year. Gas goes pretty good about putting expiration dates on there. But it's such a fine print down here in the bottom, it's going to be hard to read. But I'll show you the bump gas one more time. This is strictly for bumping. This is not considered to be a calibration gas. Those are totally different animals. and I don't have any calibration gas here to show you, but that will work you just fine as far as bump testing, and you should bump test each time you go out. So if you like these kind of videos, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and thanks for watching.